In the frozen Ural Mountains of Soviet Russia, a chilling mystery unfolded, a puzzle that has baffled experts for over 6 decades, the Dyatlov Pass Incident. In a landscape as unforgiving as it is breathtaking, 9 young adventurers ventured into the unknown, seeking challenge, camaraderie, and accomplishment. What they found instead was terror, trauma, and death without clear cause, logic, or justice. This is not just a story of survival or loss. It is a riddle etched into ice and silence. A case so haunting and incomplete that it has captivated scientists, journalists, and conspiracy theorists alike. Welcome back to Daily Mystery Dose. If you love mysteries, history, and real-life detective stories, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell icon for more fascinating content.
On January 23, 1959, a group of 10 experienced hikers from the Ural Polytechnic Institute embarked on a challenging expedition. The group was led by Igor Dyatlov, a 23-year-old student known for his skill and meticulous preparation. The other members, equally skilled in mountaineering and skiing, included 2 women and 7 men, all of whom had extensive outdoor experience. Their goal was to trek through a difficult terrain classified as Category 3, the most challenging route available at the time. The hikers documented their journey meticulously through diaries and photographs, reflecting high spirits and confidence in their abilities. Each member anticipated returning with valuable experiences and recognition for completing such a challenging route. But tragedy awaited them, far beyond their expectations. After departing, the group traveled by train to Ivdel, the closest city to the northern Ural Mountains. From there, they took a truck to Vizhai, the last inhabited settlement before the wilderness. On January 28, one of the hikers, Yuri Yudin, fell ill and had to turn back, unwittingly becoming the sole survivor of the expedition. From Vizhai, the remaining 9 members began skiing toward Mount Autorten, their intended destination. For several days, their journey went smoothly. Diary entries and photographs from January 31st show the group laughing, sharing meals, and setting up camp among the trees at the edge of the highland area. On February 1st, they began ascending toward the pass that now bears Dyatlov's name. Due to worsening weather, snowfall, and high winds, they lost their direction and veered west, ending up on the slopes of Kholat Syakhl. Rather than descending to a forested area, 1.5 kilometers away for shelter, they inexplicably set up camp on the open mountainside. Researchers believe this would be their final known activity. The group failed to send any expected telegrams, prompting concern. On February 20, the first search groups were dispatched, including volunteers, students, and later, military personnel equipped with helicopters and planes. Days later, on February 26, rescuers found the tent, collapsed, half buried in snow, and cut open from the inside. What followed was a discovery more chilling than the sub-zero winds, each finding deepening the mystery and confusing investigators. On February 26, 1959, after several days of exhaustive searching in the treacherous wilderness, the rescue team finally located the missing hikers' campsite on the eastern slope of Kholat Syakhl. What they found defied logic. The hikers' tent was partially collapsed, its fabric ripped open, not from the outside, as one might expect from an animal attack, but from within. This detail baffled investigators. Why would experienced mountaineers cut their way out of their only shelter in the middle of a freezing night? Inside the tent, everything appeared oddly undisturbed. Boots were lined up neatly along the edges. Clothing and food supplies were left behind. Their journals, a portable stove, and even maps lay untouched, yet there were no hikers in sight. Footprints, over a dozen of them, led away from the tent, barefoot or in socks, staggered as if the hikers had fled in panic. These tracks extended for several hundred meters before disappearing under layers of snow. The discovery of the hikers' bodies revealed a tragic and disturbing narrative, one marked by fear, suffering, and inexplicable trauma. The first two bodies found were those of Yuri Krivonyshenko and Georgy Doroshenko. Located beneath a large cedar tree about 1.5 kilometers from the tent, they were nearly naked, dressed only in underwear and torn undershirts, suggesting they had fled the tent in a panic. Nearby were signs of a small fire, and the bark on the cedar tree had been stripped as high as 5 meters. Forensic investigators concluded that one or both men had climbed the tree, possibly to scout for the tent or escape a threat. Both bodies showed signs of frostbite and hypothermia, but that wasn't all. Their fingers were badly damaged, burned, likely from prolonged contact with the fire or frantic attempts to sustain it. Blood was found on the tree bark and in the snow, though the source remained unclear. Next, the search team found 3 more bodies: Igor Dyatlov, Zinaida Komogorova, and Rustem Slobodin. All 3 were positioned along a straight line back toward the tent, as though they had died while trying to return to shelter. Dyatlov was found on his back, with clenched fists and a determined expression. His fate, though initially speculated to be a result of an accident, the injury raised suspicions. It could not have been caused by a simple fall in the snow. 2 months passed before the remaining 4 bodies were found in a ravine deeper in the woods, beneath 4 meters of snow. The scene was grimmer. Ludmila Dubinina's injuries were the most severe. Her ribs were broken, her chest collapsed by a tremendous force. Her eyes and tongue were missing, and her mouth was filled with blood, an indication that the injuries occurred while she was still alive. Semyon Zolotaryov had similar trauma, multiple broken ribs on the right side and a collapsed chest. He was found wearing 2 wristwatches, and strangely, a camera hung from his neck, although the film had been destroyed by moisture. Alexander Kolovatov's corpse was less damaged externally, but his nose was broken and neck twisted unnaturally. Nikolai Thibault Brignol had a massive shattered skull, as if struck by a blunt object with extreme force. Investigators noted that the injuries resembled those from high-velocity impacts, yet there was no sign of external damage to soft tissues or the surrounding terrain that could explain such trauma. More perplexing was the clothing. Dubinina and Zolotaryov were better dressed than the others, wearing multiple layers, some of which had been taken from the first 2 bodies under the cedar tree. Yet certain garments tested positive for radioactive contamination, levels far above normal background radiation. The origin of the radioactivity was never identified, and the Soviet investigation did not provide further clarification. Despite extensive autopsies, the official cause of death was listed only as hypothermia, or violent injuries from unknown force. One forensic pathologist commented that the damage was comparable to being hit by a car, yet the bodies had no skin lacerations or bruises that would typically accompany such trauma. With no evidence of an avalanche, animal attack, or hostile encounter, the search for a rational explanation only deepened the mystery. To this day, no single theory fully accounts for the contradictions in the physical evidence: why the hikers fled in terror without proper clothing, how they sustained such brutal injuries, and why some of their clothes were radioactive. Each discovery raised more questions than answers. As the investigation unfolded, the Dyatlov Pass incident began to drift from tragedy into the realm of the unexplained. Scattered among the remains were not only physical traces of panic and trauma, but elements so strange they confounded both Soviet authorities and modern-day researchers. One of the most baffling findings was the presence of radioactive contamination. Forensic reports noted that clothing belonging to Lyudmila Dubinina and Semyon Zolotaryov showed abnormally high levels of radiation, particularly a brown sweater and parts of Zolotaryov's trousers. However, the source of this radiation was never identified. Some theories suggested that Dubinina and Zolotaryov may have been exposed to radioactive materials through their academic or military backgrounds. Zolotaryov, in particular, was older than the other hikers and had served in World War II. Yet no documentation ever revealed any contact with radioactive substances. Others have speculated that the group unknowingly wandered into a Soviet military testing zone, possibly involving experimental weapons or nuclear materials, but no conclusive evidence of this has been declassified. Then came the reports of strange lights in the sky. Around the time of the incident, several witnesses, including residents of nearby villages and hikers on other routes, reported seeing glowing orbs and orange lights hovering above the Ural Mountains. These sightings were documented in the weeks surrounding February 1st, the very night the Dyatlov group was believed to have died. Some witnesses claimed the lights moved unnaturally, without sound, while others described them as slow-moving fireballs. Though Soviet authorities dismissed the accounts, some of these testimonies made it into official files. Later revelations would confirm that secret missile tests were being conducted in the general region at that time, lending some credibility to the theory that the hikers may have witnessed something they weren't meant to see. Further adding to the unease, one of the recovered cameras from the group, believed to belong to Zolotaryov, contained damaged but partially recoverable film. Among the last developed images was a photo known as Frame 33, a blurred shot that some interpret as a light source in the darkness, possibly an explosion, a flare, or something more mysterious. The image remains controversial, as its authenticity and timing have been debated by photo analysts and amateur sleuths for decades. Even the hikers' journals contain eerie entries. One such line reads, "Now we know that snowmen exist," found just days before the group's disappearance. Though likely written in jest, it has fueled speculation of something lurking in the wilderness, be it folklore or something far less explainable. There were also anomalies in the investigation itself. The Soviet government abruptly closed the case after just a few months, sealing documents and issuing a vague conclusion that the hikers had died due to a compelling natural force. No further explanation was provided. Investigators were ordered not to speak publicly about the case, and several witness testimonies vanished from official records. To this day, some of the evidence remains classified. Despite calls for transparency, portions of the original files are still redacted or missing, and no official autopsy photos of the last 4 bodies have ever been released to the public. From radioactive clothing to bizarre light phenomena and missing records, the Dyatlov Pass Incident is saturated with clues that only deepen the enigma. Rather than solving the mystery, the evidence seems to tease at an answer forever, just out of reach. With no conclusive explanation ever offered, the gaps in the evidence have become a breeding ground for theories, ranging from the scientific to the sensational. Let's explore the most prominent and perplexing possibilities. The most widely accepted mainstream explanation is that the hikers triggered a slab avalanche while cutting into the slope to pitch their tent. According to this theory, a sudden shift of snow struck the tent with enough force to injure some of the hikers and terrify the others into fleeing half-dressed into the night. In 2020, a study published in Communications, Earth and Environment used computer models and forensic research to simulate the dynamics of a slab avalanche, concluding that the snow could indeed have caused injuries similar to those found on Dubinina and Zolotaryov. But critics argue this theory doesn't hold up under scrutiny. The slope angle was too shallow for a typical avalanche. Moreover, no large snow deposits were found at the site, just a thin layer covering the tent. And if an avalanche occurred, why was the tent found mostly intact, with equipment and footprints undisturbed? Some researchers propose that rare katabatic winds, intensely strong, localized gusts, may have swept through the area, creating a dundasmospheric terror. These winds are powerful enough to blow over skiers and create low-frequency sounds capable of inducing panic and disorientation, according to the infrasound theory. This could have led the hikers to flee the tent irrationally. Yet again, this theory cannot explain the severe injuries or the missing tongue and eyes, nor does it account for the radioactive clothing. Given the Cold War context and the proximity to restricted Soviet testing grounds, one of the most persistent theories is that the hikers accidentally wandered into a secret military experiment. Some believe they may have witnessed illegal parachute mine tests, which produce shock waves strong enough to crush organs without leaving external wounds. This would match the internal injuries and might also explain the orange lights in the sky and the radiation. Proponents also point to the hasty closure of the case and missing documentation. However, no definitive evidence of testing, parachute mines or otherwise, has ever been confirmed in the region at that time. An early theory suggested the hikers were attacked by the local Mansi people for trespassing on sacred land, but this was quickly ruled out. The Mansi were known to be peaceful, and no signs of struggle or defensive wounds were found. There was also no evidence of other human tracks around the site. In fact, Mansi volunteers aided in the search efforts. For decades, the bizarre details of the incident have led some to look beyond conventional explanations. The orange lights in the sky, the strange photograph known as Frame 33, and the missing body parts have fueled theories of alien abduction or intervention. Others suggest a cryptid or supernatural entity. The so-called Russian Yeti, referenced in one of the hikers' journal entries as a joke. While there's no hard evidence to support these interpretations, their persistence reveals just how deeply the mystery resonates with our need to find meaning in chaos. Decades after the final report closed the case with the vague phrase, "an unknown compelling force," the Dyatlov Pass Incident remains the subject of ongoing research, speculation, and fascination. But in recent years, a new wave of investigators, armed with technology, forensic science, and declassified files, have attempted to shine light on this enduring mystery. In 2019, the Russian government officially reopened the case, citing renewed public interest and international attention. The aim, they claimed, was to finally put conspiracy theories to rest. But rather than explore all theories, authorities focused exclusively on natural causes, most prominently avalanches and hypothermia. This narrow scope immediately raised eyebrows in the academic and investigative community. Later that year, a report was released stating that the hikers had likely fallen victim to a slab avalanche. This type of avalanche, unlike the cascading snow often seen in disaster films, involves a compacted sheet of snow breaking loose and sliding downward. The report argued that a delayed slab slide might have hit the tent after the group had settled in for the night, prompting them to cut their way out and flee mistakenly believing more snow was about to fall.
But many experts pushed back.
One of the most notable critiques came from investigative journalist and author Douglas Preston and physicist Alexander Puzrin from ETH Zurich. In a groundbreaking 2021 paper published in Communications Earth and Environment, Puzrin and his colleague Johan Goem used computer simulations and wind-driven snow modeling to demonstrate that a small slab avalanche could plausibly explain the internal injuries, specifically those of Dubinina and Zolotaryov. Their research was even inspired in part by data from the 2013 Disney film Frozen, which provided insights into snowpack movement and pressure distribution. This surprising connection made headlines worldwide and breathed new life into the avalanche theory. Still, other researchers remained unconvinced. Skeptics pointed to the lack of physical avalanche debris at the site, the intact tent, and the clear, undisturbed trail of footprints leading away from the camp, none of which suggested a sudden and violent snow event. Critics also highlighted the limited transparency of the Russian reinvestigation, which omitted consideration of radioactive materials, the missing body parts, and reports of strange aerial lights. The Dyatlov Pass Incident is more than an unsolved mystery. It has become a cultural landmark, symbolizing the limits of human understanding and the terrifying power of nature. Over 6 decades later, the legacy of those 9 hikers continues to reverberate across borders, disciplines, and generations. In Russia, the tragedy holds a revered and almost mythic status. The pass, where the event occurred, was officially renamed Dyatlov Pass in honor of the group's leader, Igor Dyatlov. A memorial stone engraved with the names of all 9 hikers stands solemnly at the base of the Ural Mountains. Each year, mountaineers, family members, and amateur investigators make pilgrimages to the site, braving the same harsh terrain to pay their respects and seek answers where none have yet emerged. The families of the deceased never stopped searching for truth. Some fought for decades to access sealed documents, speak to military personnel, or preserve the hikers' diaries and letters. For them, the incident is not a puzzle, but a deep personal loss shadowed by ambiguity and secrecy. Outside Russia, the incident has captivated a global audience. In the West, the mystery became widely known through books like Donnie Icar's Dead Mountain and various in-depth podcasts, YouTube videos such as this one, and Reddit threads. Each retelling has offered a new interpretation, drawing together disciplines from physics and forensic science to psychology and folklore. The Dyatlov Pass Incident has also made its mark on entertainment and media. It inspired the 2013 horror film, The Dyatlov Pass Incident, which reimagines the tragedy with a supernatural twist, and the survival horror video game Kolat, where players explore a haunting recreation of the Ural wilderness. While fictionalized, these adaptations reflect the enduring public appetite for this haunting tale. Academically, the case has prompted interdisciplinary interest from researchers across the world. Experts in avalanche dynamics, cold weather trauma, and forensic pathology continue to revisit the case not only to solve it, but to refine our understanding of survival science and human behavior under extreme stress. Perhaps most significantly, the Dyatlov story serves as a haunting cautionary tale, a reminder of how even the most skilled individuals can be overcome by forces beyond their control. It also illustrates how information, when censored or poorly handled, can breed generations of doubt and conspiracy. The mystery has endured precisely because it defies a clean, satisfying resolution. Every theory leaves loose ends. Every answer creates more questions. And in that uncertainty, the Dyatlov Pass Incident has become a mirror, reflecting our collective fears our drive to explain the inexplicable, and our fascination with the unknown. More than a footnote in Cold War history, the Dyatlov mystery is now part of the cultural psyche, a puzzle we can't stop trying to solve, a story that will continue to echo in snowy silence. Fears. It's his easy wheel. Until every document is declassified, until every missing piece is found, the Dyatlov Pass will remain not just a place on a map, but a symbol of our relentless pursuit of the truth, even in the face of the unknowable. If you enjoyed exploring this chilling supernatural mystery, hit the like button, comment below with your thoughts. Do you believe the Enfield poltergeist was real or a cleverly orchestrated hoax? Don't forget to subscribe and share this video with friends who love exploring the unknown. Until next time, keep questioning the extraordinary and stay curious.